Gautier and I just met today. I'm Catherine, and I've spent the last 48 hours reading up on you and your background and H company.
Oh, wow.
And it is very exciting to be talking about agentic commerce with you. So on that note, before we begin our conversation, let's just further get acquainted. If you could introduce yourself in a minute and then tell us one thing we can't find out about you from your LinkedIn profile.
Oh, interesting. So yes, very nice to be here. I was living in New York. I just moved from New York to Paris, so I'm happy to be back. I'm back very often, but it's always good to be back in New York. I'm Gautier. I started as an engineer in banking, actually, not BNP, but JP Morgan, building the pre-AI in 2007. Then I did a couple of things, and I started at Palantir 10 years ago.
Fascinating.
So pre-product, almost pre-customer.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was an interesting. It's still a very interesting company. So I did 10 years at Palantir, started in SF. For sad reasons, I had to move to France because of the 2015 Paris attacks. So we deployed Palantir at the French intelligence. That took me 2 years. And then we grew Palantir in Europe. We started the product actually of Palantir in Europe called Foundry with Airbus. And then I was in the past years in the US where Palantir was doing very well. And I decided to start with Laurent Sif, my co-founder, who built a lot of AI at Google. So he spent 10 years at DeepMind at Google.
4 engineers from DeepMind, right?
Yes, so help with like a couple of other engineers. They did a first year of R&D, which I wasn't really involved in. I was like really happy to talk with them regularly, like almost weekly. But I decided to join full time 6 months ago to deploy these models. Maybe we're going to talk about it a bit more, but they are the most advanced in the world for the niche that we are tackling, which we think is going to be the biggest advancement for agents in B2B. So we have like 6 to 9 months advance on OpenAI, Anthropic, which is I think very exciting. It's not me, it's Laurent, my co-founder, but it's very exciting. I think it's the first time in Europe that we have a company that is that has a technological leadership in AI.
Wonderful. I can't wait to hear more. And tell us one thing that we wouldn't know about you.
Oh, okay. I thought I was going to avoid that question. What can I say? I was in Berlin this morning. I was, but maybe it's already for the French German summit. No, maybe when I was 14 years old, I got expelled from high school because I created a website. And I sort of like a Facebook, pre-Facebook, mostly with the faces of the teachers and not very nice things. And I thought that adults would never go online, but have found it. So, yeah.
Coming from Silicon Valley, that speaks to my founder environment heart. I'm Catherine Porter. I am based in California. I've been in the payment space for the last 9 years, starting out in blockchain and crypto. So I started on the Libra project and came to go-to-market experience in payments, both decentralized finance and traditional finance. And then most recently, I've been involved in digital identity, which is the intersection that I'm coming to today with agentic commerce. So with agentic commerce—
What is something that we cannot know about you?
Oh, thank you for reminding me.
Your LinkedIn.
I have lived in Tokyo, New York, San Francisco, and LA, and my favorite city in the world is Paris.
Mm-hmm.
So,
congrats.
When it comes to agentic commerce, what is your vision of it? I have a vision of it, but just help us get oriented.
Yeah, so what we are doing is agentic AI for B2B. So there are a lot of applications. I think right now what we are seeing is basically 3 generations of AI. The first generation was LLMs, so ChatGPT, for instance, or Le Chat. These were bots. You ask a question, you get an answer. Then you got the second generation of agents, which are these LLMs plugged to other tools, so like search online on data, compute, plugging to APIs or MCPs. So like you plug these tools to systems. They are still a bit autonomous, but you need to manually do that. You need to plug them to every system. Oh, I use SAP old version. I need to plug it. But like a lot of big companies don't have APIs for their core systems. It's like 80% of the systems that we see in big companies don't have API. So no way for these LLMs to communicate with all the IT systems that are critical for companies. What we do is we do the third generation of AI, the agents that we developed don't use MCP, don't use APIs. I mean, obviously they can if it's easier, we can run so we can walk, but they are post MCP and they are doing computer use, which is basically what we do every day, scrolling, clicking, touching, zooming with our fingers, mouse, screen, and keyboard. And so you can launch them on any computer, any infrastructure, any backend. And they are using the thing that humans have been developing for the past 60 years is the way for humans to interact with computers. So they are very autonomous, very versatile. It takes a couple of days to set them up. It's not a big IT project. And if you change your CRM tomorrow or you acquire a new company, it's going to work perfectly well without having to make any changes.
When I think of agentic commerce, I come at it, of course, being a consumer in AI, so I'm using ChatGPT every day to power my life. And I think about agentic commerce from the consumer perspective, which is, the easiest use case for me to describe is I'm an avid world traveler with my son, and ChatGPT knows so much about me and also about my 10-year-old. And so there is this element of ChatGPT and others being able to predict for me where Jackson, my son, and I might want to go next in the world and how to create an experience. But the commerce consummation of that experience does not exist and is fraught with a lot of privacy challenges. There's identity challenges. There's defrauding in the payment space. So is each company also focused on the B2C experience, or is it purely B2B, and then describe the most interesting customer use cases so far?
Yeah, so right now we're only doing B2B. You can test some of our agents online if you want to, but I think right now the reality is agents are 90% ready for tasks, but not 100%. So that's the reason why we are sending our engineers, the same model as we had at Palantir, forward deploying engineers. A lot of them come from my previous company, to deploy and do the last mile and make sure it takes a couple of days, but still you need to do that to make sure that it's working well. So I think that there are a lot of interesting use cases in B2C. Maybe we'll do that one day, but right now we are focusing on B2B big accounts. And so the use cases that we see are very diverse. The general use case is like what we see is most humans are spending 70% of their time clicking, going from one software to another, software that are not designed to speak to each other. So your email, then you go to your ERP, your CRM, you go back to Excel, you maybe do something on PowerPoint, you go back to an internal tool only your company has, you enter a transaction, you go back. And so it's like 70%. So people are spending a lot of time doing that. They are tired at the end of the day and they don't really achieve a lot, so there is a lot of frustration. So examples include a big publicity company, advertisement company. They have a lot of salespeople. Their salespeople are no exception, so they spend 70% of their time in front of their computer, getting quote from a big customer, trying to enter it in like all the places that they need to enter it and come back to the customer. So first of all, you go from 70% to like 5%. So it's not a 20% improvement of productivity, it's like a 95 improvement. And then what do you do is that free time? You go to new markets. So they didn't go to like small and medium enterprise and like that was a market that they thought was not for them because it's not economical to do it when you have like a salesperson doing it manually. But now they are going to these markets. Another thing that they are doing, and you see the pattern like, okay, we can improve a bit efficiency, but the goal is really to do new things that you couldn't do before. So that's one new thing, new market. And it's very easy to measure the ROI. And then they have 80 countries, mostly acquisitions. So every country has a different IT system. So when they want to do a worldwide campaign, they have to call their colleagues in every country. Obviously, Instagram, you click on which country you want, and or Meta or Google, and you get it. So they cannot compete. But with agents like that, like us, they are deploying these offerings that couldn't exist before. So yeah,
When you go into your customer base, at Palantir, you all pioneered the forward deployed engineering model.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're using at H Company? And then what impact are you seeing with this model in your customer base?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting model, and I think it's not really well understood. It's a big part of the Palantir success.
It sounds like sales engineering to me.
Yeah,
so how is it different?
The reason why we didn't pick a word like consulting or sales engineering or customer success is because it's different. Palantir and H, we have great technology. Not a lot of CEOs are interested in technology. What they want is ROI. They want to measure the results. So technology, if you are a bit naive, you think you have the best technology, it's going to be used. But the reality is that you need technology. You need people to adopt it. You need to understand the business of the person you are working with, the company you are working with, the use cases, the political blockers internally. And you need, while doing that, to build a product. Otherwise, you are a consulting company. And so FDEs are really these... in French, we say a sheep with 5 legs that are hard to find, hard to train. But once you have them and you drop them at a company, and they
like unicorns.
Exactly, like unicorns maybe would be the better metaphor. You drop them in companies, and they cannot come back. They have to sleep there. Almost. They cannot come back before having an ROI that you can measure. So I was an FDE at Palantir. I was sent to the French intelligence, and my ROI was like no more attacks. And it became like, how many attacks did you block? So like, we blocked like around like 40, 50, according to the French. But it's really the measure. It's not like, oh, you have 180 things on your RFP that you need to check, and it's done, and the IT process is working, but like nobody's using it, or it's poorly used, or it's really hard to measure the ROI. FDEs are doing the opposite. They are focusing on the return on investment. Maybe they need to change the use case in the middle of the project because the use case actually is like too hard or too complex or is not bringing return on investment. But they are only measured on one thing, which is the CEO of the customer coming on stage and saying, this is what we did with these guys. So that's like the result and the speed as well.
It sounds like an incredible benefit for the customer. And what is built at the customer is IP. What you're deploying through engineering for H Company is IP. And in this world of agentic development, as we're sort of building and learning, the models are being informed by all of this use. What obstacles exist and opportunities exist when customers say, great, we've learned all of this. There's this massive return on our business. We need to put a moat around it. Or how do you handle that kind of shared build and how it informs the H Company product?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question because we want to build, we want to build a product, which is software where you can deploy your agents. We're also building a model, which is the brain of the product. So the way we approach it is a bit similar to my previous company as well. Is you get the product, you get the brain, but we control the model. So if your model, like recently we had a customer that had like calendars that were really hard to navigate, so the model couldn't really click, didn't really understand where to click to go to the next month. And it was starting with Sunday instead of Monday, like all these things. The model we can improve in a couple of days. We have one of the biggest AI research team in Europe. And so that model is our IP. But there is no customer data in it. It's just like, let's create 1 million fake calendars so the model understands calendars. And the other thing we are building is a product. And FDEs are a sort of like secret spy in the company. While they are doing their thing and creating the ROI, they are also thinking about product. And they're going to be coming on a Monday night to the office and say, okay, I spent the day at that big corporate, a big bank in the US. I think we should add that feature. And the next day, it's going to be, 20 people working on it, and maybe 2 days later, a V0 for the customer. So that's really how we iterate, and as we build the product as we deploy our products.
And you've been 6 months CEO in this role, so we're closing out 2025. first segments where this is really taking off in the last 6 months that you've observed with customers in France, around the world, where is it a lightning bolt of product market fit?
Yeah, it's interesting because you can think about it in terms of sectors, and we are seeing, manufacturing, services, financial services, advertisements, where you have a lot of back office silos, you have a lot of places where basically they spend time with a lot of cost for. So we are seeing that. There is another way to think about it, which is what kind of leadership do you have in front of you? Because it has to be a exco, like Comex cell. The CEO has to be involved, and you see different leadership styles, and some of them. The first customer we announced was on Monday. Was a gambling company called FDJ United, Française des Jeux, for those who know. The CEO was very adamant that she wanted to get these agents to work in a month or two. So leadership style, ability to decide quickly, complex workflows, where there is pain, where you have a lot of software that haven't been upgraded, data that is not clean, we excel.
Back to my kind of nirvana vision as a consumer, it relies on B2B partnership in order to make agentic commerce work for the consumer. And in conversations that I've had with card networks and with their end merchants, so hundreds of thousands, millions of merchants on the end, where the merchant has worked really hard to create brand loyalty and identity out of me, the human consumer. So in agentic commerce, which part of it is going to remain human, and what part of commerce is going to be abstracted away and made better with AI?
It's an interesting question because you have, on one side, you have companies that invested a lot of money
Billions.
in the best website, and so you can click and you get upsell and cross-sell and everything. So they are not super happy to just create a connection with an agent that's going to do everything. It's going to find the cheapest iPhone. It doesn't care if the website is nice or not nice, and if there is a way to it's just going to look at the cheapest cent and buy it. So you have that on one side, and the consumer on the other side asking for it. So we are not really focusing on agentic commerce, but what we are seeing is, for instance, like the big supermarket companies we are starting to work with are really asking themselves the question. And I was speaking with the CEO of a big supermarket company in Europe recently, and I was asking me, what should I do with my website to attract more customers? And I was like, I don't think you should care at all about your website, because your website is probably going to be the smallest channel in a year or two. People are going to go through their agents, maybe 3 years.
We don't have much time left. Inspire us for 2026 and beyond. What you've learned in the last 6 months, what are you most excited about in this entire space?
It's really interesting because you get into a company, you have a lot of humans doing things that are a bit boring. When I was saying company, we are also doing emergency room services. So like the metric is how can you divide by 2 or 3 or 4 the waiting time? Can you improve the diagnostic for patients? But we are seeing a lot of things that a lot of people approach it from like, how can I be more efficient? How can I spend less time? Which is an interesting part, because when you reduce the time spent in doing like boring things in front of a computer, you have less context switching, you have more ideas, you have a lot of things that you can basically give your intent to the agents rather than execution. So I think we are moving from a world of like the bottleneck in companies is execution. You have a lot of ideas, but it takes a lot of time to deploy it. And my ultimate metric to see if agents are really doing their job is that the bottleneck in companies is no longer execution, but it's intention. It's creative ideas, and that is the bottleneck of the new world with agents. You have a lot of ways to measure it as well. Do you still have back office silos? If so, probably you're not using agents very well. Do you have how many new business units did you create with agents, and how can you measure the ROI? Like these are the things that I'm personally the most excited about.
And with just a few seconds left, In the B2B space, I imagine that the inhibitor also is human capital inside the customer. So what do you want these leaders to know about going back to their offices, working with their colleagues, embracing AI in their companies?
Yeah, it's a big element. Humans are moving from execution to leading, judging, validating, training models, and have hundreds and hundreds of agents working for them. So it can be scary. I've never seen a company firing people because it put agents. It might happen, but I think it's going to be on the fringe. Obviously, the media is going to talk about the first one doing it, but most companies are just seeing humans being much more efficient at doing things that would take them a lot. Would you fire a salesperson if they can deal with 30 times more customers? Probably not.
You see it in the numbers.
Exactly.
You see it in the revenue.
And if your competitor is if you're doing it and your competitor is not, you're gonna. So I think the key thing, and I'm coming back to the forward deployment model, but the key thing is to create relationship with the people you deploy. And we had a lot of tactics to do it in my previous company, and we're still doing it. When we deployed at Airbus, we had to have every worker in the factory use the tool. So how do you do it? You're at 6 a.m., you have coffee, you don't arrive at 9 a.m. like an engineer. You put the leaflets in their cars in the parking lot. You try to identify the cool kids, and you spend a lot of time with him. You give him an iPhone, and you're waiting for the others to say, well, why don't I have an iPhone myself too? So it's a lot of that. It might sound like the opposite of a tech company, but if you want success, you really, really need to get it's 80% of the work is getting humans. When I did deploy at the French intelligence in all the cities in France, I can tell you that from a company working with CIA, they didn't really like me at first. But now everybody is using it, just because you need to show them how you can help them and spend time with them.
It's going to be an amazing future. Thank you, Gautier.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.